This is by far the most valuable video I've ever made and maybe ever will make. I'm actually nervous about how much information I'm about to give to you, all completely free of charge. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to design your own in-season strength training plan to make you feel more powerful and consistent on the golf course this upcoming season. Last week, we talked about the most common mistakes that golfers make that prevent them from reaching their full potential. If you didn't watch that video, go check it out now. The email title was Why Most Golfers Struggle with Distance. I also gave an overview of the in-season training principles that I found to produce the best results with the hundreds of golfers I've had the honor of working with. And today I'm going to share an exact formula for how to structure your workouts so you can stay strong, explosive, and pain-free while playing some of the best golf of your life. But first, I want to share a quick 30-second clip from one of my online clients just to illustrate exactly what's possible when you commit to an intelligently designed golf fitness program.
My second full season with Jordan's workouts. But last season, I noticed a significant change, in distance and probably like 20, 25 yards off the tee, and just stability. Like my body could do what my golf coach always asked me to do, but I just couldn't because I physically didn't have the strength or the stability to do it. So they've been a game changer.
To teach you how to achieve results like this on your own, I'm going to break down an actual program that I wrote when I was in charge of the strength and conditioning program for the golf team at UC Santa Barbara. I'll cover this in 4 key sections. First, we'll talk about a broad overview of how to structure your workouts. Next, I'll recommend how much time to spend on each section. Then we'll dive into how to know what exercises to include, as well as how many sets and reps you should be doing. And lastly, I'll provide some examples of specific exercises you might find in each of your training blocks. All right, this is an exact program I used with Division I golfers, and we'll use it just to break down exactly how to go about structuring your own workouts. I'll start every workout with some targeted mobility work, and I probably don't need to convince you of this, but mobility training is just going to help you achieve better positions in your golf swing. And you want to prioritize your T-spine to ensure that you can make a full turn. We will also focus on your hips, and this is going to help take strain off of your lower back. And if you're someone who struggles with early extension, it can help with that sometimes. And we'll also focus on the shoulders, and this is going to help you shallow the club and get the golf club into the slot more consistently. After the mobility work, we'll do a dynamic warm-up, and I try and choose movements that are going to mimic the demands of the workout. So, for example, you'll see I picked a push-up variation here, and this is to prepare the team for a bench press variation they did later on in the workout. After your warm-up, we almost always will jump into our power development or our explosive training, and this should be your top priority during the season. Explosive exercises should come first in nearly every program, and that's because the goal is maximum power, so you need to be fresh to get the most output while you're performing these movements. After your power training, we jump into the strength work, and the goal here is to build or at least maintain strength without overloading your system during the golf season. A good rule of thumb is to choose one exercise from each foundational movement pattern, so one upper body push, one upper body pull, one squat pattern, and one hinge pattern. And then I'll throw in 1 or 2 core exercises as well. So how much time should you spend on each of these sections? The good news is you don't need to spend hours in the gym. In fact, in-season workouts should be short and efficient so that they don't interfere with your performance on the golf course. Here's how I like to break it down. I'll usually spend 5 to 10 minutes on mobility training, 5 to 10 minutes on the warm-up, 10 to 20 minutes on power development, and 10 to 20 minutes on your strength work. And I do them in that order. That's only 30 to 60 minutes, and it's all designed to help you feel and perform your best on the course. Now let's talk specifically about what actually goes into each of these training blocks. For the mobility portion, I'll typically pick between 2 and 3 exercises, and I'll perform 2 sets of each. For the warm-up, I'll usually do 1 to 2 rounds of 2 to 3 exercises, and some factors that influence how thorough of a warm-up it's going to be are if it's a full body workout, typically you're going to have more warm-up exercises. If it is a really high intensity workout, so if you're going to be lifting heavy, it makes sense to spend more time preparing for that. And lastly is actually the temperature of the room you're in. So the ideal temperature to train in is between 68 and 78 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's about 20 to 25 degrees Celsius. And if it's colder than that, we really need to raise our core temperature to make sure we're reducing our risk of injury. For power development, typically I'll pick between 2 and 4 exercises and 2 to 4 sets of each. I know this is a wide range, but usually that's an inverse relationship. So the fewer exercises, the more sets I'll do. Whereas if I'm doing 4 different power exercises, typically the amount of sets will be lower on that. And power training is typically done at 5 reps or fewer. And the justification for that is if you're giving your best effort, your output will almost never be the highest on rep 6 or above. And since the goal is max output, it makes sense to terminate the set there. And for your strength work, I usually will pick between 4 and 6 exercises and between 2 to 4 sets of each. And typically in season, we want to be using low to moderate reps. So somewhere between 3 and 8 reps, and really important that we're stopping short of failure to make sure that we're minimizing our fatigue and minimizing our soreness so it doesn't interfere with our game. Again, the goal during the season isn't to crush yourself in the gym, it's to train smart so you can keep performing at a high level. Lastly, I want to provide examples of all of the exercises that made up this workout. I'll let one video play all the way through so you can get an idea of how I take the guesswork out of the technique for my online clients, and then I'll just demo a few reps of each of the exercises to give you an idea of what the total package looks like. The rotational squat to press is one of those hyper-specific golf exercises that add value to a program when used correctly. To perform it, we'll take a shoulder width stance, just a single dumbbell in front of the shoulder, and to initiate this movement, we're going to shift our weight to the right side, drop into a squat, we'll shift our weight to the left, and then we'll drive through that lead leg and punch that weight up overhead as we rotate, pivoting through the back foot. The intention here is to move really quickly, so use a very sub-maximal load, something that is light and that you can move really quickly. Every rep should look exactly the same. They shouldn't start slowing down towards the end of that set. Try and apply some pressure into that wall. It's going to keep our hips locked in place here and ensure that that movement is just coming from that thoracic spine. I'll have you try and create some separation. Arms will move out to the side and they'll switch places. And the goal here is to keep the hands as close to the ceiling as you can throughout the entire range of motion. We'll drive the knee, externally rotate, step up, drive the other knee, rotate over the top leg, reach, return to center, externally rotate, come back down. We're going to perform a push-up, and we are going to try and keep our hips facing the ground as we rotate and reach towards the ceiling. And we'll raise one leg up off the ground, and we'll just alternate. I'm pressing through the heel of that stance leg, and I'm trying to holding on for support here, and then I'm just going to hinge forward, get long through that back leg until I feel a stretch in my hamstring, and then I'll stand up with good posture. So that's the exact framework I use to help a college golf team stay strong and explosive all season long, and now you can apply those exact same principles to your own training. So a quick summary of what we learned. We want to order our workouts as follows. Start with your mobility training, follow that up with a warm-up, then your power training, and lastly, your strength training. For your mobility training, we want to pick movements that focus on hip internal rotation, shoulder external rotation, and movement of our spine in all different planes. If you're going to work out 3 times a week and you're picking 2 mobility movements for each workout, look at that total amount. So there's going to be 6 different mobility movements. I'll usually try and spread that evenly amongst those 3 groups. Unless you know of a certain limitation that you have, then it makes sense to spend more time and get more inputs there. And if you're not sure about how to figure that out, feel free to shoot me an email. I respond to every email that I receive, and I'll help point you in the right direction. For your warm-up, we want to choose movements that mimic the demands of the workout, but at a lower intensity. For your power training, we want to choose movements from the 4 main sources of power. So that's vertical thrust, rotary power, chopping power, and wrist release. There are a couple other honorable mentions, but those are the main 4. And your strength training, I want you to focus on just picking one upper body pushing movement. So that can be a chest press, bench press, push up. It can be an overhead press, something like that. One upper body pull. This can be a row, a pull up, a pull down variation. One squat pattern. So this is something that's going to be knee dominant. It can be a lunge. It can be a squat variation. And one hinge pattern. So this is going to be your bridges, your deadlift variations, your leg curls, things like that. And lastly, pick a couple of core exercises, and from the two main buckets, one being stability, so movements that help you prevent movement of your spine, and that other bucket being movements that allow for controlled movement of your spine. Hopefully this simplifies things for you, and obviously there's a ton of nuance and expertise that's required to know how to progress these movements, when to increase the complexity, and how to tweak the training variables like frequency, volume, intensity, tempo, range of motion. The list goes on. And if you're interested in learning more about that, keep an eye out for my next video. It should come out next week. And I'll also share the real secret sauce for how I help my clients keep soreness to a minimum when they're playing frequent rounds during the season. I'll see you then.